to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again. It is a Monday morning, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And I want to start this podcast by apologizing. It is officially cold out now, and so I am in here, and I've got a heater going because I didn't think to warm this up before I came out here to do this podcast. So I am not going to shut that thing off. So if you hear it, I apologize for the sound quality. According to my soundboard here, I don't see it registering on any of the other microphones. So it is what it is. If you hear it, I apologize. I'm just trying to stay warm. I hope everyone has been doing great. I know it's been a little while since I've been on here, but like I said before, I am back, and I am officially just trying to wind up the year, trying to finish up the year. This is, I love summer, and I always talk about looking forward to the warm weather for all the shooting classes and whatnot, and I do enjoy that, but I also enjoy me just a little bit of winter, not the whole winter, but I do like it when it slows down just a little bit, and I get a chance to I'm forced to go through and clean my guns at that point when it gets cold and there's not a whole lot to do. But I can kind of slow down, and I can think about the upcoming year and everything that I've got going on. That I've got plans to do for next year's classes. So that's when I hopefully get all my good ideas. But right now, we're just kind of winding down the men's and women's shooting academies. I do have permit classes every month. The academies are going to wind down with, I think everyone this month is down to their night shoot and their cleaning class. Typically, not all of them kind of pan out like that, but they're all going to at least get that night shoot in. I've got lots of stuff ordered for that. Some glow sticks. We have a real fun time at the night shoots. A lot of times people will get. They'll bring like tracer rounds for their handguns, and we get to see the muzzle flashes, and it's just a good way to finish up the season. So I kind of look forward to that. Now, one thing that I didn't even consider might happen is, I tell you what, today is one of the very rare days that I don't have classes scheduled for like the next month. I've got so many private classes scheduled, and I'm not complaining, but it's just tons of them. People have been calling every day for these private instruction classes, and that's fine. I mean, I need that part of my business to grow, and it seems like it is this year. And I don't know what is causing that. I mean, I would imagine it has to do with a little bit with the election that is coming up, and that's today's Monday. Tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow is the day to get out and vote. I don't care honestly who you vote for, but just get out and vote. You can't sit at home. You can't make those Facebook posts and think that you're actually making a difference. You need to get out and vote. And it's pretty easy to vote nowadays. There's lots of early voting going on. I think that's probably done and over with now. But it just takes some time out of your lunch. Go into work just a little bit late. Do something. Find a little point during your day where you can take the 5, 10, 15 minutes that it takes to go in and vote. It's going to be really important that you say you vote your mind. You vote your peace of mind. Vote for whoever fits you the best. I'm not just going to say that it has to be for Donald Trump or it has to be for people on the right. You vote for who you want to vote for. I do know that there is a whole plethora, another side of as far as gun owners. They aren't always Republican. They aren't always Libertarian. There is a lot of Democrat voters who are also into firearms and into the Second Amendment, and they've got their own reasons why they believe what they believe. But just get out and vote. That is the most important thing to do. Do your part. Do your part, and then you can complain if it doesn't go the way you want, or you can. Let's just face it, we're all going to complain. I don't care if you're a Trump voter and Trump gets the presidency, you're going to complain about something he does. I don't care if you are a Democrat voter and you vote for Kamala, you're going to complain about something she does. But if you don't go and vote, you have no place, no right to complain about any of it. I have talked about, by the way, I will just jump in there and say, though, that if you do want to sign up for any men's or women's academies, even though I'm kind of winding them down this year, the sign up, the registrations are up on the website, or not up on the website, excuse me, up on social media. I use my social media pages way more than I do my website, but they are up on social media, and you can get signed up for those. If you're local and you want to do that, great. I have actually had some people sign up for some of these classes that who are not local, who lived many, many hours away. And if you want to do something like that, you definitely can. Now you may question, how am I going to get out to shoot? Well, here's the thing. I can go ahead, and it sounds really kind of silly, but it works out really, really well. If you want to do something like this, I can record things. I can send you drills to do. Anyhow, we can just do it like that, online, through email, through text messaging, whatever you want. There's a lot of online firearms training classes out there, actually. And I don't mind doing something like that if you would want to do so. But now's the time to get signed up for that stuff. That class starts in February, goes all the way through November, and like every year, I've got bigger and better things. I try to change it up every year a little bit and add more and refine more, and based on how I teach and what I teach, and then based on the needs of the students or the people that are coming to me. I see trends, right? I see what people are struggling with when they come in. So I try to adjust my classes according to those trends and help people out, help my students out, help them learn and grow the best way that I can. And then my permit classes, for those who are local, I do one permit class every single month. That is for the Idaho Enhanced Concealed Carry Permit class. And I have the entire next year scheduled. Now, I will not release all those dates at once. I release usually a few at a time. I've got another permit class coming up this weekend, and then I'll talk about the December class, and then we'll move into January and February, and I typically have one of those every single month. Very rarely, I think I've only canceled one class, and that's just because the range, I was using an indoor range at the time, and it was flooded. My thoughts are this: if you want to show up to the class, I will do the class. If it's going to be miserable weather out and I get a good portion of the class that reschedules, I'm okay with it. If one person wants to show up, once I set that date, I may be in the hole at that point, but if one person wants to show up to that permit class, I will give them a permit class. I have no problem doing that. I try to hold to my word on those. I did want to talk about a few different things today. One of them being, it's something that I kind of just talk about and never shut up about when it comes to shooting accurately, is the trigger press. I've tried to find different ways to help people understand how to make a proper trigger press. And there's 2 or 3 different ways I phrase things, the way I explain things. I just kind of want to go over that just a little bit on the podcast, right? Maybe I have talked to a few new podcast listeners. If you're listening, you'll know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to throw your names out there. But they have said, hey, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts. I've listened to all your podcasts. And if you listen to all my podcasts, I'm super impressed. And thank you for doing so, because there's quite a few out there. In fact, I'm going to throw out there, if you have listened to all my podcasts, like on Spotify and stuff, hit me up, because there's a lot more out there that are not on Spotify. And I can send you a link to those, and you can listen clear back to the very I won't say the very beginning, but close to the very beginning, when my quality sucked a little bit, and the show was kind of, I don't know. I think when I do a podcast now, I want to say the quality is a lot better than it was at the very beginning. But if you'd like to hear those very beginning episodes, let me know. I will shoot you a link. And we can go from there. But let's talk about the trigger press. The trigger press is very important. It's vitally important to how you shoot. And sometimes people have a hard time. In fact, most people have a hard time learning that proper trigger press, right? Because it's a mental thing. It is hard to do. You're trying to overcome a flinch. You're trying to overcome a jerking of the trigger. And a lot of that is mental, but you have to be, it's easier said than done, okay? It's something that you have to practice at all time. And you've heard me say dry fire, dry fire, dry fire, dry fire. That is so important. It seems super silly and so important. Now, I'm going to say this. Dry fire is still important no matter what I say here. But some people, they go to dry fire their firearm, their handgun, right? They do it all the time and they get really, really, really good at it. When the gun is empty, their brain knows the gun is unloaded. Okay, they know that there's going to be no recoil. And then when they get on the range, they can struggle a little bit because all of a sudden, maybe that first shot is perfect, but then all of a sudden, there's all of a sudden recoil there, and your brain's like, goes into super, panic mode. Panic mode, protect yourself, flinch, 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 and all of a sudden that nasty flinch comes back. So the dry fire hasn't gone to waste, right? You still know how to press the trigger correctly, but now you have to force yourself to do it. You have to focus on pressing the trigger without moving the gun or your hand. So when you press the trigger and take the shot, right, that bullet's going to impact the target wherever the barrel of that gun is pointing at the time you break the shot, at the time you take that shot. That's what's going to happen, right? The bullet's going to impact the target wherever that barrel is at that time. Okay, so the goal is to be able to hold the gun completely still, keep your sights aligned, and press that trigger at the same time, being the only thing that you're moving is your trigger finger and the trigger. Okay, you have to have a good straight back press. We have to be very careful when we're pressing the trigger. If you stick out your trigger finger right now, with no gun, and you make like the come here motion with your pointer finger, like come here, when you do that, that's the way people press the trigger sometimes, and they end up turning. It's kind of an over exaggeration, but they end up turning the gun depending on how much finger they have on the trigger. You need to focus on a straight back press, and that involves manipulating your trigger finger in such a way that you can get the straight back press. It involves isolating that trigger finger or isolating the muscles in your hand that are used to move that finger, and you have to isolate them because you don't want any involuntary or sympathetic gripping of your other fingers at the same time, or that whole gun is going to turn and you will not hit the bullseye. The bullet will not go the way that you want it to. So you have to learn how to isolate that trigger finger, and that takes practice. Now, with certain guns and certain triggers, it can be a little easier, right? It can be a little easier. Certain triggers are crisp and nice and aftermarket and clean and just absolutely fantastic. Some of them aren't so much, and you can learn those triggers. It just takes time and it takes practice. Sometimes I will talk, a lot of times I'll talk about, when I'm talking about pressing the trigger, I'm talking about place your finger on there, line up your sights. You need to take up the slack, find that wall, and I'll say pause, and then you need to press with lots of S's. Not press, but press. You need to slow it down, and you do need to slow it down. But one of the keys is you do what works for you, but you don't necessarily need a slow press, because in a defensive situation, right, that slow press isn't going to be there. You're going to be pressing that trigger faster. Even if you're not defensive, but you're shooting defensively as far as shooting multiple rounds, trying to run a course or something like that, you don't necessarily have time for that slow press. So that's when you move from that to hopefully you've built up the muscle memory to do that trigger press well. You're going to move up from there to what we call a controlled press. Controlled press meaning that you can press the trigger quicker, but it is controlled to the point you're just not smashing it and slapping it against the back of the gun going the full distance to just bang, bang. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Water is across the room, and I refuse to pause this thing to go get it. So you have a controlled trigger press, which means you know exactly how much pressure to give that trigger to make that gun fire, and that's all you're giving it. You're not giving it everything. You're not slamming that trigger back as far as it will go against the back of the gun. You are just giving it enough pressure quickly to make the gun fire. Now that takes practice. And you're being able to do this, right? Without doing what? Without the sympathetic or involuntary movement of the rest of your fingers that are around the front strap or the front of the grip of that gun, causing that gun to flinch, causing all kinds of stuff that is just trouble at that point. So you don't have to necessarily worry about a slow press when you're shooting defensively. It's more of a controlled press, as fast or as slow as you want, but you have that so controlled that you know exactly how much pressure to give it to make the gun fire. I just keep repeating that, but that is the truth. Okay, control. You need to have control of that trigger to make it work for you well, for you to be accurate, for you to make that shot, for you to make the next follow-up shot quick and fast. You have to be the master of that trigger, okay? I want to say master of your domain, but that kind of flashes back to some weird Seinfeld episode. But you want to become master of that trigger, okay? Be able to press it, take the shot quick, take a repeated shot quick, or be right there on the wall, giving it pressure so you're actually just past the wall and being able to stop and hold it if you don't have to take a shot. That is important. You have to understand how that trigger works, and you have to make it work for you. And that's all about being controlled, okay? That's my little spiel on trigger press today. And I got some more stuff we're going to talk about. Don't think it's over. It will be a relatively short podcast as usual. But I've worked all weekend. I had like 4 classes and 2, 3, 4, like 6 people here, right? And it was they were beginners. I'll give them that. They were beginners, and that's fine. But it's all about that trigger press. That's what we worked on. Trigger press, trigger press, trigger press. That is so very important. Let's talk about this too. So we all heard that, Todd, you all heard from Todd. Y'all, that I call it, I think Magnum calls it the Christmas morning podcast. Like when I talked about my platypus, right? I bought that platypus. It's a 2011. Wonderful gun. Go back and check out that podcast. You'll learn all about it. But it's 2011, so it's got a 1911. It's a 1911 single action, but it's a double stack 9mm, so they consider it to be a 2011. Okay, it does have a grip safety on it. Now let's talk about grip safeties, because I'm perusing social media. I'm perusing like these platypus stealth arms Facebook pages, and people are showing their new guns they got, and it's kind of cool because they're different colors and whatnot. I keep running across these posts where people are talking about pinning their safety. Pinning their safety is when they, so the gun, if you're not familiar with that kind of gun, it has a grip safety on it, a manual safety and a grip safety. So if the manual safety is off, it still isn't supposed to fire unless you have the grip safety depressed. Okay, that's a thing. That's the way those guns work. That's the way they came from the factory. That's the way they were built. That's the way they should be used. And I see lots of people talking about, I hate that grip safety. I love the gun, but I hate that grip safety. So I'm losing my voice or something here, folks. They talk about pinning the safety. When they talk about pinning the safety, they depress the safety and somehow they put a pin in there. I'm not that mechanically inclined, so I don't pay attention to exactly how to do it. I don't want to do it. Some people simply just put a rubber band over it to keep that grip safety depressed, and then they just use the manual safety. I think that is absolutely, I mean, a couple of different reasons. First of all, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. It came from the factory with the grip safety. That's how that thing has been used with it and the manual safety. That's how it's been used for years, the entire time that it was in existence. That's how it was meant to be used. Now, that back in the day, there was, they decided on some of those firearms, some manufacturers, the different things that they made, they decided to do away with the grip safety. So then you have the gun with those actions that don't have a grip safety. Fine, don't use it. It doesn't have it, so it's not possible to use. But if your firearm comes with a safety, if it comes with a grip safety, those are what you need to use and utilize when you're shooting that gun. If you don't like it, buy a different gun. Don't disable a safety. That's just not something. That's not something that you want to do, that you should do. Now, I know that a lot of people like some of these 2011s and 1911s, they use them for competition, right? And so it enables them to do what? High-level competitive shooters like it because it enables them to grab that gun, get that grip really fast, right? They're faster. Draw it and get shots quicker. It makes them faster. Here's the thing. Learn how to draw your gun. Learn how to grip your gun properly every time. Learn how to go to the holster. Learn that step one of the draw process and learn how to get your hand on that grip so you get that full firing grip, whatever that means for the firearm that you carry. Whatever a full firing grip is, the proper firing grip for that type of firearm, learn how to do it. It's ridiculous to me that they're going to disable those safeties because that's like when someone comes to me and says, I'm shooting this gun, Todd, with these iron sights, and can you adjust these sights? Because these sights aren't on, and I'm shooting everywhere. Or they show me a gun. I've adjusted these sights because it came from the factory, and it wasn't right. It wasn't correct. So I had to adjust these sights so I'm accurate. That is stupid, right? Learn how to shoot your gun. The gun typically 99.9999% of the time comes from the factory with sights that are ready to go. You shouldn't have to adjust them. If you have to adjust them from the factory, you are the problem. You are the problem. Okay? You don't know how to shoot. You don't know how to align the sights. You're flinching. You've got a bad trigger press. You got a horrible grip. It's the same way with a grip safety. If you can't draw that gun and get a full firing grip on it from the start, from step one of the draw, and you draw that gun out and you don't have the correct grip, then that's on you. Like, learn the basic fundamentals of the gun that you carry. That is not a problem with the gun. That is a problem with you. And if you can't make that gun function and work the way it's supposed to, don't fix yourself. Fix yourself. Now let's look at triggers. I've changed out triggers in guns. But you know what? Before I do that, I shoot that gun quite a while. And I learn the trigger. And yes, you can make triggers better. And I have no problem doing that. And it makes them a little easier to shoot. But I've learned the trigger that's on there. I've learned that gun. I am competent with that gun. And you want to upgrade a trigger? Great, upgrade a trigger. But as far as safety is concerned, no. As far as sights are concerned, don't adjust the sights because you don't know how to shoot. Don't pin the safety. Don't pin the grip safety because you don't know how to draw the gun or you don't know how to grip a gun. Work on your grip. The problem lies with you, not the firearm. Right? That's just the way that goes. That's just asinine, if you ask me. Especially. I don't know. You get these people, they say they're competitive shooters and they do this. It's like, if you're competitive, be good at what you do, dude. Don't try to cut corners. Like, that's just ridiculous. You might come and say, I'm a competitive shooter. I'm super accurate. I'm super this. I'm super that. Well, but you look at their gun and it's highly, highly, highly modified. Their holes, and I'm a fast draw. We'll look at the holster. The holster's highly, highly, highly modified. That's not a holster that you would carry for everyday practical concealed carry use, or even if it was an OWB holster that you carried, you wouldn't carry that one for competition. I'm not saying you're not good, but I mean, come on, man. You've modified absolutely everything. Modify your holster if you want. I don't really care, but man, don't pin that grip safety. That's That is just stupid. Learn how to shoot. Like, learn how to shoot and operate your gun the way it was intended, the way God intended for you to operate that gun. That's the way you should operate that firearm. It's ridiculous. But that's my little rant on that. I'm trying to think, God, how many more rants can I fit in on the podcast today? But I will say, I ordered some hats the other day, or so I got some more hats in stock for the locals here. I'm pretty excited, actually. I've also come up with some sayings, and I've got some shirts, and I'm fixing to go make up some shirts, at least for me, and then I'll show them to everyone else. And if you guys want those, I might try to put together like a pre-order of shirts for Patriot Defense. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Other than that, I love all the men's and women's shooting academies that I do, but I'm kind of looking forward to them to wind down this month, because having 2 months, having December and January without any classes, Thursday nights, Wednesday nights, Tuesday nights, is kind of nice. I'm going to tell you right now, it's kind of nice. But I'm kind of looking forward to that. But there you go. There is your podcast. If you liked it, share it with your family, share it with your friends. You can share it on all your social media pages. That really helps out a bunch. If you got any questions or comments, or you just think I'm full of crap, because a lot of people do, and that's fine. I'm just going to keep spouting my crap, though. It is what it is. It's my opinion, and if you want to let me know otherwise, you can call me. You can text me, area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. And remember, if you don't like the podcast, my good buddy, the Cajun Cowboy, always says about his podcast, you don't like the podcast, guess what? It's double your money back. Double your money back. If you don't like it, just let me know, and we'll see what we can do about that. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.